crap that you're going to put in a drawer and come back this time next year. But no, it's just good. It's lovely to see people and stuff we used to watch as a kid, even Antony's cars.
Yeah, the wonderful BAR here, Antony was the test driver for it.
They go back that far.
Not as far as I used to.
You're in at the wrong time. You're at the timing of it wrong there, didn't you?
Matt was rolling Mazdas in 1993. It goes back way further. This is a Q&A though, gents. We're going to put some fantastic questions to our wonderful audience. I don't know where on earth the microphone is at this point. Andrew's got the microphone. You can't miss her hair. She's wonderful. Sorry, Amanda. So, has anyone got any questions for our wonderful three? Better questions than I've been asking all weekend, anyway.
Come on, don't be shy.
Fantastic, we can go home now, gents. Anyone? Come on, surely you've got better questions than I've asked them. One in the front row.
I'd like to know if Angie will do Le Mans again.
To race at Le Mans? No, my driving days are over now. Yeah, decided to end it all at the age of 42. And I haven't looked back actually. I thought maybe I'd miss it. You never quite know when you choose to retire from driving. You don't know if you're going to miss it. I suspected I would, but I guess now, a few years on, I do miss driving the car. I miss driving anything, but it's the competition is what I don't miss. That's the thing I had to walk away from, because it's hard to appreciate for a fan watching from the outside how much pressure you put yourself under. We were talking about this earlier on, about how much pressure a driver puts himself through, and it's not just when you arrive at the sharp end of your career. You've been doing that since you started. So for me, that was an 8-year-old kid. You put yourself under that pressure. Was it almost 35 years of my life of turning the steering wheel and pressing the pedals, just putting yourself under that much pressure against your teammates and whatever it took to beat them, and it wears you down eventually. So that's the bit I don't miss. Driving the car, putting the car on the edge is something that you'll never do again in a competitive sense. So that feels a bit strange.
I wanted to ask you actually earlier in the weekend, and I say that as if we've only not just started interviewing today, but the presenting side of things with Formula One that you do, I mean, I'm hugely jealous, obviously, as you can imagine, but it's an enjoyable side of it, because your knowledge helps you stay so in touch with what's going on, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's that combination of driving the simulators like I do now for Mercedes, and that keeps me up to date, up to speed with Formula One and the progression that it's presented. And then that in turn helps me to do the Sky job, to stand there and talk about the sport, because you've got a glimpse of the inside knowledge of what the car actually feels like, although in a virtual world. So, and the two kind of go hand in hand. So it is nice, but it ends up being quite a busy year doing all of that. 'Cause it's around 40 days, 45 days I did last year for Mercedes in the sim, and then 12 Grand Prix, and then the 7 WEC races, including Le Mans. So it's definitely easier talking about it though than driving.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, in the case of you three as well, people often say in motorsport, people either do or those that can't talk about it. But you've all points managed to do.
Can I ask you a question?
Also been a commentator.
Yeah, I'll ask Antony a question just for us. Did you, when you went from car to sim, did you struggle with nausea or anything like that? Because a lot of people do.
I know, a lot of people do.
Because your brain's telling you about the G-forces and what it's not getting at.
It's true, is that the simulators, it can be even a static one, so not a motion-based simulator, and that can sometimes be enough to make people feel a bit nauseous, a bit sick by even just being in the room. I remember in my early Mercedes days when Michael Schumacher was there as part of the team, and he couldn't even walk into the room with the simulator on. I mean, he was desperate to do it, but he was one of those people that just couldn't look at the screen. It made him feel sick straight away.
Too much sauerkraut.
Or maybe just...
I was going to say, was it
too much of that sauerkraut stuff.
I was going to say, too many limoncellos for you, JP.
Limoncellos, fantastic.
That's the truth. But I mean, I was lucky that I never felt that. As I said to my mum, all that video gaming you told me off to do, it paid off in the end, didn't it? Didn't do my homework, did video games instead.
Here we are. Any other questions, anybody? Gentleman over here, gentleman in the middle as well. Andrea? You jump love. She's going to kill me. Got another day.
I think you're going to get white later.
Question to Alex. If there's one era in the history of all motorists that you would like to witness to be a part of, which would it be and why?
Any era of motorsport you'd like to be part of?
Any era of motorsport?
Oh, I'd like to be in the
We should all
70s. The 70s would have been great.
With Fluxy?
No, James Hunt.
Oh yeah.
Why did you not want to be around in those days? Cars were dangerous,
Yes.
circuits were dangerous,
You met Hunt.
sex was safe,
There was
the
a
driver was dangerous.
There was
Now it's not like that, isn't it? Cars are too safe and sex is dangerous.
There was a point in your book, JP, where you met James. We'll come to that in a second. But what you'd stick with the 70s when you went?
I choose an era where he wasn't. I'll go 80s or 90s then.
I think we're lucky to have lived in the era. I mean, we've said this before, lived in the era we have because my mother was born very late in life. So my grandfather on my mother's side was born in 1885. And when you think about it, there's no cars, bikes, planes. It's horse and car. You know, if you want to go to Australia, you get on the boat, and you're lucky you get there 6 weeks later. And where it's going now feels sterile to me.
Yeah.
So I think it's a snapshot in evolution. You know, 50, 60, 70 years that we've been lucky to be in, you know, smell a bit of the Castrol in your heart and, you know, hear the noise and the screech of the tyres and everything and the roar of a V8. You know, I think, how lucky are we?
I was going to say, it's the biggest curve of the evolution from race cars, isn't it? You know, the way that they started, even just, if you look back now to the 90s, you know, and how technologically advanced it all is now, it's just balmy. But you only have to look at a 10-year window and there's such massive progression.
Well, I remember the cars in the 90s thinking they were unbelievably clever, but if you just go and have a look at them basic bits of kit, it's an engine and a steering wheel, no automations, no stick, change gear.
See, that's a question I want to ask actually, is in cars, when it comes to sequential gearboxes, would you prefer a massive single shift and one up, one down, or flat pedals?
I think the challenge, or just, you know, if you watch any videos of the great Ayrton Senna around Monaco,
One-handed.
One-handed. Truly amazing. But it was a different era. You couldn't do that now.
I think with the power steering that they had, you could do that. It's just that I always found it was a different skill. It's a different skill to what the drivers have to do today with the multitude of buttons and knobs that they have on the steering wheel, and the way you have to think to drive a modern car now is very different compared to the more agricultural way, dare I say, than what we were used to growing up with, a Formula Ford with the H-pad gearbox. And there was a definite skill to that, the heel and toe, but everybody could do it. Everyone could do that, and it wasn't like made you a genius, the fact that you had this H-pad and you were making it work better than anybody else. That's where the lap time bit, it didn't. You were all doing it very well, and it's not like someone missed a gear and I didn't miss a gear. It's not like that.
You never miss against me, I missed you. I didn't go hard. I said something else.
You were listening to that.
What about you, Matt? Was it the sequential up and down like the Super Touros, or would you prefer the ease?
Well, there's one story we did because I was with Honda for a long time, and I think it was when Honda were with McLaren originally, and they used to fly the good professional speed. They used to fly the best whites and cars over from the museum in Japan, and I think they got John Surtees' first ever F1 car, and they were going to take it up the hill, and I think McLaren said, "Oh, here's Stoffel Van Dorn to drive it." So he's doing his suit fit and he's getting into all the Japs around him, all bowing and doing this. He goes, "Yeah, what's this? What's this?" And he goes, "What's that?" He went, "It's the gear lever." And the head Jap just went, "Get him out now." And they wouldn't let him drive it. They were so much on the car. But when you think, he's probably never driven a stick shift car.
Yeah, probably not.
In a race car in his life, it's what he's been.
Wasn't it? Mick Schumacher drove his dad's old Jordan. Was it last year or 2 years ago?
2 years ago.
And Sky
Really
covered it.
beautiful green.
Beautiful, yeah, the 7-Up Jordan, lovely car. So Mick, nice thing, nice feature, Sky were there, they did, so Karun Chandler was there with Mick. Karun had to teach, apparently, Mick, how to downshift and heel and toe, because he didn't know how to do this stuff.
Philistines, eh?
But then, you know,
Well, hands up in here if you can't heel and toe. If you can't, get out.
Johnny G from Stockport.
So yeah, no, obviously no, it was a skill, but today's cars are so, I mean, they're so, the way you have to think to drive them is like, your options are limitless pretty much. So you know, if you go into a corner and it's like, you have a bit of a mid-corner understeer, say, and we would put up with that. Maybe you do something, lift off a bit, down, snap the throttle, or do something with the car before. You'd mechanically try to work it out. Now, you just go, you have to, whilst driving at 200 miles an hour, you're thinking, yeah, that part of that corner, when I was there last lap, right, I'm going to do that, so I'm going to go for a diff middle. I know where that rotary is, the diff mid switch, I'm going to find that one, so when I go back to the corner that next lap, I'm going to go minus 2 clicks on that for when I get to the mid corner point of turn 5 next lap. You know, and you go down through the gears, and you get to the corner, woo, the car turn, and you go, aha, good. There we go, I've got it.
So that is a skill, isn't it?
That is a skill. Some drivers can do it better than others, definitely. It's a different way of driving, but it's the modern way of doing it. It's clever stuff.
Absolutely. Anyone else?
I nearly killed, and this is why I've been
What a great start to a sentence.
I don't like the way this is started.
I nearly killed in 1997 Bernie Eccleston on the Brompton Road.
You would be.
And I was dialing in, saw him on the radio, and I looked up, thank God I didn't go for another station, otherwise I would take him out on a separate crossing.
It's easy to miss.
And I was in my team gear off to a Renault dealer event. Could you imagine? Imagine if I killed him. What would have happened to the world of motorsport from that point on?
Another very quick, this is triggering me in my mind, because if any of you have ever read or listened to Jason's book, it's hilarious, because Jason reads it himself, the audiobook. You once gave a very important figure a middle digit on the road.
Do you remember this?
No.
Right, so again,
Sorry, just tangent, apologies.
It's 97 and I've just got my drive with Williams, so I'm accepting every single PR opportunity that comes my way because I want to make a great impression with the team. We had to go down to something like Ringwood, down the M3, but I'd been in London doing another stupid PR stunt for them on the Saturday night. So I'm charging down there and I'm going quick, maybe, I don't know, 85. And it's a quiet Sunday morning, and I see a Range Rover.
Incriminating 85.
See, it might be 90, but it wasn't daft. It wasn't daft. And I see a Range Rover coming up behind me, fast flashing lights, and I'm overtaking the car, and I'm thinking, no, I'm not having this. I'm not having it. Big flash. So I give it a little tap on the brakes just to say, just back off a bit. Didn't hold their progress on. So I've timed this, as I pulled in, I've given the big middle finger, and then Prince Charles was sat across me.
Pretty epic to see all that.
Yeah. And seconds later, I'm pulled off the road by the outriders, which were behind me, and I'm given a big dressing down. Well, anyway, to continue that story, I've got a picture on my phone where Prince Harry was in the BIDC President's Suite, and I sat at the board of directors for a few years. And there's a picture of us two picking our noses at the same time. That's a great picture, obviously. But I had a chat with him and said, has your dad ever told a story about when some bloke on the M3 gave you the V's? He said, yes, that's me.
That's phenomenal. Unreal. We'll move on to the
And basically, I
Jason.
haven't got an MB, an OBE or anything other. I've got a key direct key to the castle.
Is this question going to be why has Jason never got an OBE?
What I want to know is, all three of you, thoughts on Lewis going to Ferrari, and can he win championship number 8?
For me, yes. I can't wait for that to happen. I've just got a funny feeling. I've got a funny feeling he's going to do it. And we'll all be super chuffed on it.
I think we all will be. Except my girlfriend who's pulling her face. She's a Max Verstappen fan.
Oh, you can get out as well.
They are. You deserve that.
I honestly, joke about,
You're the centre man.
it's a shame they're changing the regs again, because they changed the regs, Mercedes got a jump on everyone, and then they dominated. They changed the regs again, and Red Bull's dominated, and now everyone catches up eventually.
Yes.
And so now they'll change the regs, and someone will dominate again, which is an unfortunate thing, because now looking into this season as a fan, as we're all fans, it's so exciting because Could it be Ferrari, McLaren, Mercedes? You know, it could be any Red Bull. You know, it's wide open, which is great.
What about you, Anne?
Yeah, I'm really intrigued to see how he goes. Yeah, I think he was a bit. I think he was a bit down at the end of last year. You could really see it, even the way he carried himself. I always say that he'd be the world's worst poker player, Lewis, because he wears his heart in his sleeve. And you could really see that he basically, it's like he didn't want to be there at the end of the season. I don't know whether that's because he just genuinely wanted to be dressed in red and just get on with next year, or whether it was just that constant getting beaten by his teammate that was getting him down. So I don't know what the reason was. So if he can genuinely come back invigorated this year, which he can be.
I think he was great in the last race of the year, what was it?
Yeah, and in races he was always good. It's the qualifying that was getting in his way, and I think because qualifying is so important now in Formula 1, that you need to be there. At least you need to get through to Q3.
Yeah.
And if that trend continues this year that was happening last year, and he keeps getting knocked out in Q1, then he's got a problem. And you can be as good as you want to be in the race on Sunday.
Yeah.
You're not going to come through the field to win races anymore, particularly against a good qualifier like Charles Leclerc.
Yeah.
But the race pace should always be there for him. That's not the issue. And he's an intuitive, he's an instinctive driver, so he's very good at feeling the tyres through a race, and all of that will be second nature to him. But the only doubt I have is you jump in a new car, which is always difficult. We've all done it. You jump in someone else's team, like Leclerc. He's been there with Ferrari now for a good couple of years, improving his speed. He speaks Italian. He's intertwined into the team, and great relationship with Fred Vasseur as well, of course. So
And he's incredibly good looking.
and
he's young.
Yeah, so he's got all that going for him.
It's a horrible human being.
So you've gone up against this guy now, and you know you can be a 7-time, 8-time world champion, and it's always tough to move teams and deliver in someone else's car, in their team. So let's see. But yeah, I have my doubts about the qualifying. He's got to turn that around this year.
Yeah, I think if he does do it this year, it'll be the way that he sort of came back to do it that would cement the greatness, rather than just it being the biggest tally of championships. I think it's the manner in which you do it. I mean, you know, JP, you had so long between your two championships as well. It was obviously, I imagine, a bit of a relief maybe to get it done. I've been the bridesmaid so many times as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
Again,
that pressure builds. Yeah, and do you know what? He's up against, if he can beat Leclerc in qualifying, fair play.
Yeah. And it's a tough playing field because, like Matt said, you know, it's so exciting now in Formula 1 because there are so many teams that can win a race. I mean, you know, I jokingly said last year that there's 8 drivers, because of how good the cars are, there's 8 drivers, but realistically, if you think about Perez, there's only 7 that could win a race, and they all did. And it was the most amount of winners we've had in a season in so long, and it's feeling like one of those, maybe not quite the pinnacle of Formula 1, but it's another good peak in the sports entertainment aspect, isn't it?
Guys, my engineer at Dynamics, his brother is one of the senior engine technicians at Ilmore, which is Mercedes F1. It's interesting, he phoned Barry about 2 months ago, said, oh, we've just, all the team, the senior team are over 60 with the experience. And he said, we've all just been given a notice because they reckon because the engine regulations are changing for 26, they say, you're not applicable to you lot anymore. We've got a new breed of new people in. And so
It's brutal, isn't it?
It is pretty brutal.
Unreal. It's unfortunately how it goes sometimes in the industry. I mean, you know, whether it be a driving role, whether it be a mechanic, a team owner, it can be savage. You know, it's musical chairs sometimes, isn't it?
It's a performance-related industry. You know, the moment you don't perform, or the performance drops, out you go.
Regardless of like allegiance.
And to be fair, that's how it should be.
Loyalty only goes to loyalty only goes a certain way, particularly when you're racing driver and you're being racing. You feel like, you know, we've all been there driving for manufacturing, really embedded in the team now, and I feel really part of, we're a big family here.
We have PR courses, didn't we?
And then you look a bit like that before you know it, you better be. Sorry, you're over 40 now and you've lost a little bit of speed and you're out. For a race,
the moment they think slightly bright is always a brand new one to put in.
You're replaceable. You are replaceable. And like you said, it's a performance industry. If you're not performing, the spotlight soon comes onto you. And, we'll look at Perez as an example. So,
did he have an opportunity to leave last year and get replaced mid-year? Because I don't know why he didn't take it unless it was all around some moving around stuff.
Honestly, I don't know. I assume that with his connections in Mexico, he was bringing a certain amount to the team. And it's obviously a huge market for them in Mexico for Red Bull. So I think they wanted it to work. It just got to the point where it clearly wasn't.
They couldn't pull the wool over eyes.
Yeah. So I am really excited to see Liam Lawson what he can do this year. He's one of the stories of this year. I think that
Definitely
it's of huge interest to me. As much as watching Lewis in red, watching Liam against Max will be.
And is Christian Horner really a proper dick? I mean, I think so.
I was part with Christian, no?
He is, isn't he?
Well, that was a confident one. Any more questions?
Well, you were there in London for the F175. You would have heard what happened.
I don't know. He didn't get any love there, did he? I don't know if you saw that F175 thing the night, or the crazy lights. I mean, I suffered from a little bit of, what's it called? When the lights...
Ligament.
What? Yeah. I was struggling with all the flashing lights.
There's many things you struggle with.
This is what I've been claiming for the last 20 years. And no one's believing that. That's what's going
They're red lights.
Yeah, I'm actually colourblind.
It means stop, not overtake.
And anyway, you just got the worst reception ever. And the crowd, it was a big, huge boo. Only the FIA got a bigger boo.
Yeah, true. Any final questions, everybody? One in the front row? That seemed like a hesitant question, so I'm intrigued by this. Go on.
I've got a young chap sat next to me whom Matt and Jason are ancient legends and may or may not be real. You presumably all grew up watching motorsport. Who inspired you when you were under the Nissan?
I think there's two Brummies probably inspired me. One was Nigel Mansell, but I didn't dig that he was always getting out and they were handing. When he left Williams, they handed him a Zim friend, didn't they? That was which he really took the wrong way, but as you would. But he was a scrapper. He was a fighter in Formula 1, which I loved. Wasn't always in the best car, but he knew he was going to get his elbows out. And in touring cars, one person I really looked up to was Steve Soper. And I thought he was the best all-round touring car driver ever. I went to a motorsport dinner in Munich one year because I was a junior BMW driver, and the then head of BMW Motorsport was describing his factory drivers to the audience, Heinz Karfeld, and he was going, "Oh, Winkelhock warms the hearts of the crowd, and Ravaglia is the thinking driver, Johnny Cicotto is the businessman." He said, Steve Silver, he says, he's like the English Terrier where he bites hard into the bone and does not let go.
That's a great analogy for it.
The crowd is great. But
That sums him up well, though. It's spot on. What about you, Jason?
I would certainly definitely agree with Matt on Steve Soper. You know, when I started racing, I was working at Silverstone Racing School, and I remember there was a BMW track day, well not a track day, but like a manufacturer's day, and Steve was giving passenger rides around, and I managed to blackness, drive around the Grand Prix circuit. And it was just joyous to sit next to him and watch. Real classy, but as a karter, the one guy which really lit my fire was Gilles Villeneuve.
Another sort of trees or trophies driver, wasn't he? Just found the limit by exceeding it.
Yeah, he was charismatic, a bit of a fruitcake, and we all like fruitcakes, don't we? He drove with his heart on his sleeve. Immensely talented. I'm not sure he was the brightest man in the world, because he could have achieved much more had he not been so wild. I just love the way he drove.
Yeah, I mean, you're inspired by drivers on your way up, and I always took the inspiration from. I grew up in that era of Senna, Prost, Mansell. I was particularly intrigued by the way Prost approached his racing.
Yeah.
Really methodical. He could outfox a lot of people. including Senna on his day. People think, especially the younger generation, they just assume that Senna blitzed it all the time. He didn't. Prost, if you watch more than held his own.
Yeah, and he gets you back, you'll see Senna's always at the front.
And Prost was took inspiration from him. In his sports cars, Tom Christensen, absolute legend of the sport, 9-time Le Mans winner. Alan McNish as well, and it was an honour when I arrived to race against him. They were like racing against your heroes. It's funny, and as they were on the way down in their career or just peaking, I was on my way up, and so it was nice to have that crossover with them. So I always loved racing against them.
And you two actually ended up racing against Tom Christensen as well, didn't you? You did a year in the British Touring Car Championship in a Honda where you proceeded to knock 7 bells out of him for the entire season.
He didn't like me very much.
Funny, he didn't get on with me either.
You can't go there, it's fine, right?
That Nissan that year was incredibly potent, wasn't it, in 2000 against because there wasn't as many manufacturers, but it was showing the fight to the rest of them, wasn't it?
I think in the Super Touring era, what they do is it was a name, a formula of big names, and a lot of the manufacturers were parachuting big names in because it was a willy waving competition. Jean-Christophe Bouillon who came with you, and they got the shock of their life because the racing. When I was describing something, it's not pretty. It's get your elbows out.
It's survival, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And while you're trying to overtake someone, 3 people are trying to overtake you. So your eyes are everywhere in one shape and form.
So I always
like Jason on a Saturday night down the
I often use drivers like you two in conversations when fans are talking about Formula 1 drivers, the best in the world. I'm always critical of them when I say, make sure that I say that F1 drivers are the best single-seater drivers in the world.
Yeah.
It's not a given that you just pluck a Formula 1 driver out of an F1 car and you put them into a British touring car race. And I used you two as an example that you don't just put someone, like Kimi Raikkonen, for example, in a British touring car race. I'll tell you who's going to be in.
These two.
Hands down there, these two.
Yeah.
And
But not in the bar. We won't meet him in the bar.
We've all heard about Kimi.
I've read your book. Don't be so hard on yourself.
I think you're right though, it is horses and courses, isn't it? We learned our craft out of many years.
Look at Dario. He went into 3-time IndyCar champion, went to NASCAR, and he hated it. Every second he couldn't wait to get out to the end of the year.
It's crazy, just like you say, plucking somebody from one sport into the one corner of motorsport even. It's the same sport, but just different cars and a different discipline.
However, there is an outlier to all this, and that's R9 when he was in a touring car.
Oh, fair play.
Was he good? Was he quick?
And
that race at Donington.
It was a back marker Mondeo, and he drove it like it had 400 horsepower more than everybody else.
I mean, he did have a bit more than most people, obviously.
Did he?
I'm only being facetious, but he was brilliant.
That was one of the most. if I've ever shown anybody touring car videos and I say, look, watch this, those few laps where he was battling with Reedy and battling with Muller as well in the Audi, and in those conditions, it was just chaos. But it was brilliant chaos because there was 5 of them all fighting in one place, and for R9 to do it as well was pretty epic. I would like to ask you, gents, one final question though before we round up, because unfortunately we are running out of time now. Can we get a selfie with all these wonderful people?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Should we get a selfie with them? Just so we don't have to look at your shoes, Jason.
Well, he does.
Do you want me to go inside that now?
Yeah,